Robert Louis Stevenson, Arthur Conan Doyle, Rudyard Kipling, Ian Fleming, James Bond, Britain is the home of adventure. And these are 4 of Britain's brightest and best brands that have adventure in their DNA. Gentlemen and ladies, introduce yourselves as we go around the table, and then we're going to tell you all about why Britain has a specific DNA strand of adventure in its watches. Please kick me off.
All right, I'm Peter McCauley. I'm the founder of Nomadic Watches in Belfast. We make watches that are adventure-proof and built to last a lifetime.
Nice.
I'm Darren, founder of Sher Watch Company, and we started off with a range of watches specifically for kids.
Hi everyone, I'm Anna, Head of Communications at Christopher Ward, and I think it's fair to say we have the spirit of adventure in us.
And I'm Guy, Head of Sales at Elliot Brown, and everything we do and everything we've done since the day we started has been adventure-based.
Let's kick off, Peter, with how does Nomadic Watches actually, how does it give you a ticket to adventure?
Watch brands are all about telling a story. It's not really about telling the time. You know, you want something that's going to be a companion as you go on your adventures, but it also then collects all those little scars and those little nicks and knacks. And I think that's what makes watches interesting. You know, we're talking here, this is our Fíor 555. It's our GMT watch. And, you know, anywhere you go around the world, you always want to stay connected to your roots and connected to home. So that's why we made that watch. Fíor is actually an Irish word that means true. So it's about staying true to home, stay true to your roots, and wherever you go, you can always tie yourself back to that.
Amazing. And you've got a second watch that also gives an adventurous. This is more the automotive style. We've got a perforated strap. Tell me about this one.
It's called the Céad 126. Céad's an Irish word that means first. First in motorsports. You know, it's about winning. It's about pushing yourself to the limits, about making progress. And that's really everything that we've tried to capture in our DNA is about continuing to make progress. You might not always get it right every time. You're not always going to succeed, but you want to feel forwards and move forwards with that. So that's kind of our ethos is make progress.
And what do you feel you're bringing to British watchmaking as a brand? What have you bringing that doesn't exist? What is your unique proposition here?
Like really got me started with Nomadic is there's tons. Everyone knows the great Swiss brands. Everyone knows the great British brands. There wasn't like a great Irish brand. No one was telling our story, and I wanted to do that and put Belfast on the map. And that's where we come into the picture of the British watchmaking scene.
When I talk about Britain, do you get a little ping of like, but I'm Irish? Stop. You know, I'm not the same as you.
Without getting into the, yeah, we're uniquely positioned. We're in Northern Ireland, so we're very much a part of Britain, but we're very much Irish as well. So we sort of see ourselves as that bridge between being Irish and being British, and we see ourselves a blend of that. And we always refer to ourselves as a Belfast company rather than an Irish brand or a British brand. We're very much that sort of bridge between the two, and I feel very proud of that.
What is the most Irish thing about either of those watches? Point out a deeply Irish thing.
All the watches have an Irish name, so this is the Céad is an Irish word for first. They're also, our greens tend to be really unique. It's a very deep color, that kind of Irish green, but it works really well. So those are kind of some of the key features.
We're kind of live brainstorming here now. If we were to create a split the G watch, how would we do that? That's a good idea.
We've actually been working on something in the background about that, so yeah, coming soon.
Split the G watch. Can we do it as a collaboration?
That would be incredible. I'd love to.
Oh man, you heard it first. Darren, onto you. Desperately different watches here. We have a very large, non-child looking watch, and then we have 3 small, amazing watches. My 3 daughters have a Sher watch each. What is going on here? How does this reflect adventure and what you're doing?
Well, I mean, look, all adventures start as a kid, right? And there aren't really...
The head of communication says, yeah, that's good.
There aren't any really kids' watches that are built for that adventure.
Yeah.
So the whole idea with Sher Watches, my son helped me design it, and he was very clear he wanted a grown-up watch. Yeah. So it's stainless steel case, sapphire crystal, screw-down crown, 100-meter water-resistant, full lume dial. It's built to handle all the adventures kids' wrist can handle.
So Darren, I've been on Darren's podcast, which is called That Watch Podcast. Go check it out. I'm going to suggest something now that'll break the friendship. I'm suggesting your son is senior management and you're working for him. If you've seen any promos for Sher Watches, you'd have to agree. This kid has aura for days. And I have to agree with you. I don't know, tell me in the comments below, but kids' watches are the most brittle, breakable, terrible things. What is the price of these? Have you found a way to land this plane?
Yeah, so it's £95. It comes with 2 straps and a travel case. So we wanted to keep the price point under £100, which is actually advice that you gave me when I first told you about the prototype.
Somebody listened to me for once. Amazing. And how are they selling?
Really well. So we only launched in, I think, April. We sold our first 300 within a few months, and now we're on kind of the next batch. And we've just introduced the new colours.
So, Guy, do you know how to tell the time?
No.
So, excellent. I'm going to...
Something I've never bothered to think about, really.
Explain to the camera how this works, looking at the way that you learn to tell the time from this watch.
Well, it's done in sections, so it just makes it a lot easier. Rather than the kids have to remember everything, it's just laid out so clearly that you can do it sort of instantaneously, which is fantastic. And I think what you're doing is great, because we had this conversation earlier. You're building the next generation of watch lovers for us. So you get a lot of love from all of us for that.
Whenever my kids come to things like this, which hopefully they will come today, but everyone says, oh, you love watches, and then I just think the dark secret until this watch was that they actually still didn't know how to tell the time. And they're 25 years old. No, they're 12. They're 12, 11, and 10. This was the first watch that they were able to tell the time on instantaneously. So if you have kids and you're looking for a kid's watch, this is a winner. What about this, and what the hell is going on? Why be greedy? You're already, you're going to dominate the world and adventure in kids' watches, and now you got this one too.
Yeah, so look, as you mentioned, I host a podcast with 2 other guys. And the intention of Sher Watches wasn't just to be a kids' watch brand, but I felt that was a really important problem to solve first. And I thought we'll do our first adult watch, and we'll do it in collaboration with That Watch podcast. So the pre-order goes out soon. We're only doing 300 of them. It's got a beverage rating, not a depth rating. So plays on all the fun of the podcast.
It's a kind of breathalyzer in it. What is a beverage rating?
So that gives you a rating of how much you can drink until...
The G split the G watch.
I know.
Yeah, there we go.
There's 2 alcohol-themed watches
collab.
that are happening here. But tell me more about the beverage rating.
So the beverage rating tells you how much you can drink before it's no longer legible.
Okay.
That's a lot, yeah.
200 beers. All right. Well... if I split the G 200 times, that will just be nonsense to me. Anna, Christopher Ward, I mean, what an adventure this brand has been on. I recently did a video with your fearless leader, and we recounted this amazing 20 plus years. It's the most watched video of this year on Time+Tide. So you love Christopher Ward. What are you bringing to represent Christopher Ward's adventure in watchmaking?
Yeah, so look, we have amazing adventure watches. You've got your dunes, you've got your Sealanders, even military things that we do with our bespoke.
Tridents, we sell Tridents just all day.
Amazing. But I think for Christopher Ward, want to talk about the spirit of adventure. We've obviously got here the C12 Loco, so what we like to call it our most audacious launch that we've had this year. I think that is fair to say. We launched it with a feature-length documentary, which some people around this table also may have featured in.
Yeah.
Not naming names.
Yeah.
But that was a pretty brave adventure for us to go on. We brought in camera crews into our office, let them see absolutely everything, warts and all.
If you haven't seen the documentary, track this down on YouTube. It doesn't go to plan. That's what makes it interesting. Yeah. There's a lot of this. It isn't just another glorious win.
Totally. It was totally unedited in a way, and unfiltered, even though we would have liked to edit parts of it, I'm sure. But yeah, it was a real brave adventure look into what we do as a brand. So yeah, you've got your C12 Loco here. And then also on the table here, we've got the Lumiere. So this was a real kind of slam dunk of last summer. One of our sort of first kind of forays into using global light.
So Darren's handed me a plunger.
Well, that's a studio
It's impressive.
UV.
It's an impressive UV to watch. Yeah. But the Lumiere, amazing watch. It's been really huge success. Super satisfying bezel click, as you can hear there.
Very satisfying.
And it's kind of your everyday adventure watch. I think it's very wearable.
I love those index. It's fantastic that it looms everywhere. It just looks so smart.
And we've recently brought this kind of technique using the global light out in the new Belcanto Lumiere as well, which has been a big hit recently.
Yeah. And let me ask you then, Guy.
I thought you were pocketing that then for a moment.
As you were. No, I mean, how important is it for the adventure of British watchmaking that a brand like Ward makes these incredible steps?
I think it's fantastic. I think that as we've seen the category of independent British watch brands grow over the last 5 years, we always need the comet for everybody else to be dragged behind. And I think Christopher Ward has done a fantastic job of doing that. I think it's been a real privilege to look from the outside in and see that progression grow from where it started to where you are today. I think it's wonderful, and I think it benefits all of us. It really does.
And with Mike not here, Anna, you can just take all that credit.
Yes, it was you.
Now on to Elliot Brown watches. Of all the brands around the table, Elliot Brown, if we talk about Ian Fleming and James Bond, you probably have the deepest military link.
Yeah, we do. In 2017, we were asked by the SBS to create a watch with them. We'd made a watch for their association from our Canford collection, and that had gone very well. And they came to us and said, "Can we make something in conjunction with you?" And that became Holton. This has the broad arrow and its own NATO stock number. Now we have automatic GMT as well as quartz, and it's just been a massive part of who we are over the last 10 years. We probably get a military project in through the door now every 3 or 4 days, and it really has changed the way the business is. In about 4 years ago, we were asked by it was born out of a question with the Royal Marines: can we make a watch with a countdown and count up timer on it? The Beachmaster is the guy on beach landings who counts down to mission start, up to mission completion, and we were able to do it. It's never been done before, so we have a patent on the timing mechanism on that. So we are, we took one of these 2 years ago on an ROV in the Pacific, and it went just off the shelf, and it went to just below 2 kilometres before it leaked, and it sat there for
2,000 metres.
It sat there for 10 minutes. Ticking away, and then the glass imploded and stuck to the dial. We put a lot of love and thought into what we do, and everything we do has got what we call the movement shield system inside. So it's an inner case which is set in place with 3 O-rings, and it just acts as a suspension system for the movement and dial. So
amazing. Yeah. Darren, let me ask you a question. You love Tudor, and I know that Tudor lovers love to hunt military Tudor. What is it that makes military watches sexy?
I think because they're proper tool watches, and they genuinely authentic in terms of their intended purpose. And obviously with military watches, a certain specification is required, and I think there's just something a bit romantic about that as well.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's also that people can see the life they've lived. And that's important.
Marking those memories, isn't it, guys?
Yeah, that we can prove what we do actually lives in the real world, in the environments that it's chosen to be used in, and survives at the end of the day.
And in some ways, I would say, Peter, I don't know how you feel about this, but the rise of smartwatches and wearables stops at a certain point of robustness and toughness in all conditions, whereas mechanical watches and traditional wristwatches can keep going.
That's it. It's something that's going to be around. You're going to have it, be able to pass it on to children and through the generations, and that's what makes mechanical watches magic. In theory, the watch industry is a bit crazy. Like, nobody needs any of these products. You don't need a watch, so why do we do it? And it's because of those generational aspects to it. It's that romanticism, I think, around them, and I love that about them.
Ladies and gentlemen, so many types of adventures around this table. But the biggest adventure of all that these people beside me are taking is they're taking a punt on launching and running a watch brand in 2025. It is an absolute anachronistic oddity that these watches still exist, as you just said. We don't need them anymore, and yet, with adventurous undertakings, you could argue that we actually do. Because our smartwatches and so on are simply not going to go with us on all of our adventures, and even down to this childish adventure to understand the time. It's being addressed by watchers on this table. Thanks so much for watching. Team, thank you very much for being here.
Pleasure.
This is the British Weekender at the Time+Tide Watch Discovery Studio in London. If you want to come to a Time+Tide event, join our mailing list, follow the channel. Thanks again, team. Onwards and upwards.